Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Jack Devine. Welcome back to another episode of Office Hours. Today we're going to talk about how to make changes and how I visualize the fingerboard and tricks of the trade that I definitely use and try to teach all of my students. And if you're tuning in, guess what? You're a student. It's happy days. It's a good thing. Today I have nothing going on for the next couple of hours, so I figured I would, stop by and teach you guys, if you're interested, in how to solo over a tune like Going Down the Road Feeling Bad by the Grateful Dead. This is a really killer tune that, they've been playing, well, they played it forever, but my preference was for the earlier versions, like around 1970. In particular, there's a landmark recording off of Skull and Roses. So the chords, let's talk about the chords. We've got an E chord, it starts out kind of like in a kind of an elongated major pentatonic blues. So okay, so that's E to A, right? All E there. Quick little pump to this D chord. Hey, how's it going? Do I have any tips on how to make my soloing sound melodic and not just like a bunch of random notes? Yeah, stay tuned. We'll talk about that. I will teach you a melody over this progression that was kind of a gateway drug for me, kind of showed me how to play through changes. And this is the thrust of 99% of the Grateful Dead and Jam guitar player stuff. Wanted to thank you for the mixer. Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm super happy to share anything I've got to smooth the path forward for anybody out there. I'm happy to contribute. So let me finish talking about what we're actually going to be playing over. Okay, so everybody has a frame of reference. So we're going E, again E, and then we're going to do this quick little pump to a D chord, which functions largely as a way of just introducing the concept of going like to an E7 sound. Okay, that little note in the E7 chord is kind of magnified and turned into until we get to our 4 chord. That's the A chord. Oh, didn't know Deadheads get up until 1 in the They do around here, man. I've been up since 5:30. So anyway, A, back to E again, and then there's just 2 little chords that happen in there. There's dum da 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 dum, C sharp minor, okay, which comes in really handy for creating that little pivot from the 1 to the 5. That's our B chord. Okay, so this is out of E major, but you don't want to play like... You don't want to play that E major, and you don't want to play... You want to play... Right? You want to play E major pentatonic primarily over top of the E chord. And when it comes time to play over the A chord, you want to play primarily, you want to think about A major pentatonic. And when it comes time for the B chord, you want to think, surprise, surprise, B major pentatonic. And then over top of the E chord again, you want to think about going back to E major pentatonic, and E major pentatonic and C major, C sharp minor here share the same exact notes. So we can basically think about it like in these general neighborhoods of sound, and then augment those pentatonic ideas with 1 or 2 kind of guest characters from the major scale, okay, and any of its adjacent modes, okay, and we'll talk about this, okay. So here, let's just hear the general approach I'm talking about. E chord, E major, right, and then A major, E major again, back to A major, E major, C sharp minor, E, B, and then back to E again. Now we're in A, E, A, E, C sharp minor, E, B, E. All right, and I'm thinking about things chordally, not scales. Don't think about the scales. The scales are going to hurt you. What you want to do is think, I'm playing, I've got E ideas. And then you think about A coming up and you go, how do I get to A from here? You could go, or you could have gone and come up to its third, right? Then back to E. Back to A. Back to E. C sharp minor, tag it. Then back to E. And then B. And then back to E. Sorry. Okay, so this is the idea. Now, along the way, obviously, we want to tag a few key notes, and we want to take advantage of some of those notes. So let's talk about that. Okay, over top of the E chord, and this will lead us right to that concept about somebody was asking, how do I make my stuff sound more melodic? Let's learn a little melody. Okay, let's learn this. And that last note is the key note. That last note, anybody who's studied with me will know this example as a prime example of the concept I call the blinker. And this is how we integrate a few key players from the major scale into the major pentatonic sound that we've been developing, okay? We've got this major pentatonic flat 3. Sorry. See how I'm using those flat 3s? Anytime you see me hitting a G note, right? It's got that bluesy, sassy sound that kind of adds a little salt to the sweetness of the major pentatonic. That's the sound that we're after. If we play strictly E major pentatonic, we've got some problems. It's going to end up sounding more like Dickie Betts, right? So we're going to end up with more of that. Right? What we want to do is add a little bit of that bluesy tonality by virtue of this, that little half step up into the third. All right, we're going to come up and grab that D note for the first time, okay? We haven't been playing it. We haven't been going and rocking up and down this minor pentatonic. No. Major pentatonic with that flat 3. That's the sound we're after, okay? So think about it like that. Until right there, right? right? That D happens right at the end of our whole development of the E chord. And what this does is it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the ear. And once it wants to resolve into the third, okay, of our A chord. Do, re, mi in the key of A. Finds our third, up an octave. That's the note we're targeting. So we're going to go one above it at the very last minute over the E chord. Creates tension, and then it relieves itself into. Now, we don't have to go. We could go and bend up from 1 or 2 frets below, right? Or just hit it. Okay, so that's how we think about things. Pardon me. So we've got E. Hit the D. Okay, see how I did that? Just E. I did like a little chromatic descending line. And just make sure to hit the D at the end of all that mishigas. Okay, all that craziness, we're just going to go. Whatever I'm doing, at the very end, I'm going to try to get to that D note, okay? And watch how it works. I did it again to get into the A again. And believe it or not, I hit the G note, which is the flat 7 of the A chord that we went to. And look at how it resolves. It comes to here to this G note, which desperately wants to go up back into the root. So it's all pivoting around using this interchange between the flat 7, which turns into the third. Okay, on the first chord change, we're going down into the third. On the second chord change, we're going up into the third. Watch, okay? So we're going to go, I'm just going to limit my notes to the major pentatonic notes right here. And at the very end, I'll just show you the D, and then I'll do A major pentatonic. Then hit its flat 7 and resolve up into the back into the third of the E major chord where we're headed to. All right, we'll use the same trick twice, and that's kind of this. There's like a parallel theory that takes place within much of the Grateful Dead, understanding of how to play through these changes. So let's take a look at that. Okay, simple stuff. Okay, so aside from cheesing it up on making it into the C sharp minor, that exemplified what I'm talking about, okay? E major pentatonic. Use the flat 3. Flat 7 of the E, that's our D note, and then into our A chord, right? All right, then hit the G over top of it, and then it leads back up, right, back to A. Now, the interesting thing about the chord change that we're about to play through, which is the E down to C sharp minor, if we look at the notes of E major pentatonic, they're the same as C sharp minor. So we really don't need to reconceptualize what we're doing. What we need to do is play some of those E notes and just make sure we end on the C sharp. Okay? That's this note, or this note, or this note. Okay? Now, will it sound okay if we hit any of the other chord tones? Yes, but extra points are awarded to those who land on the C sharp. The reason being, there's so many shared tones that if you resolve to an E, it means a little less because you were just coming from an E. So you don't want to refer to the tonic of the chord you were just playing over on the downbeat of the new chord, because that weakens the connection between your playing and the listener's ear. What you want to do is you want to guide, and clearly guide the listener towards understanding what you're doing. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Blinker. A chord. Back into the E from the G. Back to A. Hit the C sharp. See how I'm hitting that? Boom, right on the downbeat of that C sharp minor. All right, and then there's only one more trick to do. There's just playing E, B, back to E. All right, so this little melody that I played briefly and now we'll return to, again, appears on that landmark recording from Skull and Roses, okay? And this little lick is a vague approximation of what's on there. Okay, and what are we doing? We're coming up into the third, then the fifth of the E chord, getting up to its root from a 6, and then bending up and milking that D for all the drama it can evoke. And then we're going to come into the A chord. Now, there's a lot of flat thirds being put in there, right? That's over the E chord. We're putting I'm putting a lot of flat thirds in there to kind of emulate that bluesier major pentatonic sound. So major pentatonic flat 3 is the overarching tonality that we're after here. Okay, that's playing out of the E chord into the A chord, back to the E chord, back to the A chord. Right, let's take it from the top. That's just blowing through it 2 times. Now, I'm not slowing down for you guys at this point, but hopefully any of the intermediate players can see what's happening, or hear what's happening at least, and try to slow it down. If you use one of these little Vidami tools back here, very helpful for slowing down lines that you're interested in transcribing. All right, and if you're curious about that, obviously there's a lot of information out there, and some even on my channel. Okay, so let's look at that lick. All right, we can start it from the F sharp or from the G, or just, that's often how I'll start it when I'm playing live, and I definitely use this lick to this day. You can just come up and tag that D, or you can bend into it. Very, very, put a little, slowing it down a little. Okay, and watch, I'm going to come into the A chord now from the flat 3, right? So I'm using that C note to approach the C sharp over the A chord. Okay, you can see how many flat thirds I'm using on the way right there, flat 7. So I'm going up into the flat, from the flat third into the major third, and from the flat 7 down into the 6. That was flat third down into the 2. So I'm using this flat third an awful lot to connect these notes. And here, if you don't know that shit, man, that's like the country road lick, right? right? So that sound, that's the sound of like that Garcia barbecue, Dixieland. Okay, and there's our blinker into the A chord. Into E. A. Do I want to be in your band? I mean, I guess it depends on how good your band is. Of course, I'd love to. I'd love to expand my horizons and play with more people. I think that's obviously a side note that we can talk about is, hey, in a way, what are you doing at home, guys? Get out, meet people, even people that don't know or don't play exactly how you want to play. You gotta sit down and jam. You gotta spend the time. You gotta ask them to, handle rhythm guitar duties, and then you can learn how to handle rhythm guitar duties. Like, you can't just sit around and playing with yourself. Like this is a nice loop, right? That sounds like a competent bass player. That's hopefully I am, and a capable rhythm guitar player backing me up, right? And I can sit there and practice till rapture, but it's not the same as actually interacting with another person who you can't predict who's playing the same thing, but in their own way, right? So, that's just a sidebar. Like, let's talk about musicianship and how we achieve that, right? And it's through social interaction, basically. You can't just walk in and be a dick and expect people to want to work with you. And you can't even if you're more talented than them, you still have to learn how to be gracious. It's kind of like being stronger than somebody or taller than somebody. It's not really something that you should debate, but it's also not something that you should lord over somebody, right? And you shouldn't use the fact that you're maybe further down the road on your journey musically to make people feel inferior. You should take the time to, learn. Believe it or not, I've learned more from starting to teach more in these last couple of years. I've definitely been teaching more the last 5 years than I did in the 10 years prior. And I think I formulated ideas during the time prior to teaching that I didn't realize I had discovered, right? But it was once I had to actually encapsulate them in a consumable way for that enabled me to actually realize what's going on. What amp am I using? I'm not using an amp. I'm using a direct, like a DI box thing called the Kemper, which simulates amps. This one is simulating a deluxe reverb that's got a tube screamer in front of it, and a fair amount of reverb and one delay, right? All right, so one of the things, like how you learn to make changes is literally by doing what I'm about to show you. Oh, hey, man. Thanks, Reed. Thanks for checking us out. Yeah, my band, Knock 'em Dead, played a nice show. I thought it's true. I think that was one of our better concerts, actually. Man, I don't know how people talk into microphones without becoming breathless. I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. This stupid mic is right here in my face, and it's so imposing. So let's just get back to how to get from E into A, right? We're targeting this sound. E major pentatonic, adding that flat 3. See how I'm avoiding the 7th though? Like that. Right. See how I'm avoiding that D note right there? I'm holding that back. That note is valid, but just because it's valid doesn't mean you run up and down. Like, just keep running up and down the E scale until you kind of run out of steam. You want to be very, very selective. It's kind of like, I don't know, playing gin, right? You kind of hold back your cards until you've got the right one, and you're like, bam, right? Or dominoes, you're like, domino, motherfucker, boom, it's over, right? So that D note, right? We could play it from the beginning, right? We could start playing E mixolydian. Let's go. Right? And that doesn't sound bad. I'm not trying to make it sound bad to prove a point. I'm trying to say that I think it's more effective and more like what my favorite era of Garcia's strategy was to play. Right? Hold back and then hit that D right at the end so that you can utilize its power to get you into the third of the 4 chord you're about to play into. All right? So just playing that idea, that strategy over and over and over. I mean, Jesus, you don't know how many thousands of times I practiced playing from the 1 chord to the 4 chord using this technique. So right? Every time you're going to, if you come see me play, 100% of every time you hear me go to the 4 chord in this tune, you're going to hear basically, you know. Okay. Over and over and over again, just winging it. And the trick to winging it is not thinking scales. Think, I've got to fill in. I'm thinking E ideas. That's all I'm doing. E. E, major pentatonic with the flat 3/7. Boom. To A. And then all those ideas have to shift to A, major pentatonic flat 3. And then utilize the flat 7 at the end of that. Okay, that's the G note is the flat 7 of the A chord. We use the same trick, but we come backwards. It's kind of like the mirror image of the way that we got down there, right? We went from here, and here we're going to go. So it's kind of a yin-yang relationship between those flat 7s and the third, right? Very, very key relationship between these notes. And it doesn't really make sense because that flat 3rd and the flat 7 don't really seem like they're going to make a lot of sense, okay? So you have to kind of understand how to play those cards, all right? So that's the first idea. So here's that sound of the major pentatonic without those flat 3rds. Listen to how pretty it sounds. A little too anthemic and a little too angelic. It doesn't have any So that's really about a half an hour worth of discussion about how to handle making those changes. It's not that difficult once you understand what you're supposed to be doing. You can make up a little exercise or some sort of roadmap or some sort of collection of ideas or licks that you know work, and then try to push it against the progression. So first of all, you got to learn how to make a meaningful loop of this song. Otherwise, you will not be able to practice over it in any kind of manner that is helpful for you, right? So, and I'm a staunch, very firm believer in the notion of if you can't play rhythm, you should not probably be exploring lead playing yet. All right. It's not a matter of deserving or not wanting to. It's just I view rhythm guitar playing as the basics, and then from that foundational ability, you can then learn to expand your ideas into lead lines, because you actually will see all the shapes that you use to play the chords. Well, it's not so hard once you grab. If you can grab this, right, to play over it, you could probably arpeggiate it. Right? It sounds really nice. So I don't know. I can't seem to find my my broadcast here on YouTube. So I don't know whether or not anybody's asking me any questions, because I'm looking down at the stupid guitar too much, and this thing acts as a little teleprompter for me. All right, well, look, fuck it. We won't bother with that. So ideas, right? We want to think about maybe taking the E chord. The whole idea is to target guitar tone, chord tones, right? Over top of the E chord, those are going to be E, G sharp, and B. All right, until the very end of the line, and then we're going to think about that D. All right, so let's just take a look at the E chord in the C shape. Now watch. We can go. And play into our A chord shape, the same C chord shape, right? We went from here to here to play over the A chord. So let's do that fast. It might blow past you a couple times. I'll play it a couple times. Okay, so we went E, G, sharp, B. And you see that little sequence? I'm just going one fret back and then back. And I'm using these chromatic notes to connect the dots between these two other chord tones, the third and this. Well, we're going to get the triads in a minute, big boy. So you hang tight. All right, I promise I'll show you a little trick that I've been teaching folks. And we'll whip your ass into shape. All right, so between the G sharp and the B, we can chromatically connect. Right? Right, I'm using these kind of chromaticisms between the chord tones. Okay, that's between the third and the fifth. And now towards the end of our phrase, we're building tension. We're going to bring in that flat 7, which is right here. Again, another chromatic 4 tone up. All right, and then we can go into the root. And then again. Now watch, you see how I skipped the flat 2? See that? I'm skipping that F natural, all right? And then going up into the A chord. Played the same little line that I played over the E chord. Over top of the A chord. All right, and by hitting that C sharp, we all heard the boom, doo 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 doo. Right, and then back from E, B, back to E. All right, let's clean things up a little bit. All right, now, well, this job I don't got. It's a little too hard. All right, so let's talk a little bit about fretboard awareness, recognition and memorization. How do we learn where all these fucking notes are? It's quite a lot. The problem with the guitar is that it's easily transposable. So we play in the key and we go A major, B major, D major, right? What we don't get is the benefit of having to learn things. Oh, that's just an extension of the same chords kind of coming up, and that's the scale, and that's the chords, and it all kind of connects like it does from left to right, low to high on a piano. Here we're playing two-dimensional music, right? We've got this like horizontal and verticality of our instrument. And it's very confusing. We have 5 middle C's. Right? 5. Thanks. Fuck you. It's so annoying to have to hear that and realize, oh shit, that line could be played in so many different places with so many different variables and variations. How am I ever going to actually transcribe? Where most things on the piano, that's unique, right? There's only one of each note on the piano. So my son can walk up and go doink and hit middle C on the piano. It sounds as good as if Ray Charles was to do it. Now, granted, he can't play Hard Times or something like that, but he could play the middle C. You try doing that on a guitar, you got to get your right hand together and your left hand together. You got to fret. You got to make sure you don't go like, oh shit, right? And there's 5 of them, so it's very daunting at first. So if you're a beginner, hang in there, okay? It does start to make some sense. What is going on with that? We'll get that telephone away from the converter. All right, so let's take a look at how we learn where all these other notes are that we don't learn so easily, right? Guitar has these open strings, E, A, D, G, B, another E. So we know where all those notes are, right? They're all here. 12th fret is the same as the open string, and then we learn the chords that correspond with them, you know. Right? So C, A, G, E, D, all those chords. And if we're lucky, we learn the F chord, and then that opens up all these other chords, right? But what we don't do is play a lot of tunes that involve E flat and B flat and A flat and G flat, or whatever you want to call it. Pardon me. So what I'm here to do is teach you a little idea that hopefully will shine a light in some of these dark corners of the fretboard for you, and at the same time teach you some patterns and shapes that you're going to need to know at a very, very like muscle memory level to get through playing over changes. So if you don't know these, they'll come in really handy, even if you're a mid-level player. All right, so let's start on the key of F, because that's the first of the least familiar sounds that we're going to be grappling with. All right, so over our F chord, we're going to go like this. We're going to play its root, its fifth, its third. And we're going to play its fifth, third, and its root. So we're going to go from this shape to this shape. Then we're going to go to this shape. Okay, and this is an E chord that doesn't use the pinky. And we're going to come up here into what I call the Wind Cries Mary shape. Right, it's got the third in the bass, the fifth, and then the root. And all these are is just inversions of an F chord. Whoop. So we're going F, 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 F. Right? And then we're coming back using the pinky. Then this shape and here. Do not go like this and play them all. All right? We want to go, right? And then last but not least, our D shape. Okay? Now, the idea is now we take this and we transpose this idea into another key. So we're going to go from F to B flat. So all that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. B flat. Right? So we're going like this: F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. Those are my 6 strangers. And anybody who's studied with me has heard me talk about the 6 strangers. The idea is These are the chords and the keys and the triad shapes that we're least familiar with. Now, obviously, you could keep taking that idea and bringing it down until you get to familiar territory. B, E, A, D, G, C, and then the whole cycle starts again. Voila. Okay, and you can see it from here. Very easy to see what's happening. Right? F, the 5 below. Right? F is the 5 of this. That is the 5 of that. Then that is the 5 of that. All right, and that's going to shine a light on where are all these triads coming from? What are the shapes that I need to know? And where are the keys? And my particular bugaboo is that I ask all my students to say F, 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 over and over and over again, right? Then B flat. Or A sharp, right? They each have another little nickname. All right, E flat or D sharp. A flat. C sharp or D flat. So on and so forth, okay? Now, the cool thing about the six strangers concept is you could apply it to just about anything. You could apply it to just single notes, right? Or triads. Right? Fly through your stuff, right? Or you can take it as far as full arpeggios. Right? That's F, B flat. Right? And so on and so forth. All right? So that's really the trick to learning where all the notes are in a systematic way. And I do not recommend that you bite off all of this in one go. Don't do that. No, we don't eat an elephant in one bite. And the idea of music is definitely an elephant. It's an elephantine-sized subject, okay? It's infinite. So my suggestion is you just worry about learning your F for a week. All right, you could do this. Ooh, sorry. All right, we can do it up a chord too. By the way, this doesn't always have to be this chord. All right, we could do it from here. Or from here. Right? So that would be this shape, this shape, this shape, this shape. So I tend to do this out of the, what I would call an E-shape F chord, a C-shaped F chord, and a G-shaped F chord. All right? Once you learn those, you're off to the races, dude. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right? Then shift to B flat. Then go from F to B flat. Then learn E flat. You know, just give it a week per key. And pretty soon you're no longer scared of those six strangers. You don't have stranger danger about playing in G sharp. All right? So that's my hack. There's no easy way to progress through this thing, but there are systems that you can employ that make sense, okay? I think that's one of them. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see if does this thing fucking want to work for me? Why won't you work? Like, I don't see my broadcast on here, so I can't see the comments. Oh, I think there might have been some comments going on right there, because I thought I looked up and saw something disappear. Well, whatever. All right. I guess there's time for one more example of things that you're gonna have to know. Obviously, we already talked about having to know your major pentatonics, right? I think of them as being the most usable tool, and to ask a carpenter to build something without a ruler and a hammer and some nails and some glue and some basic tools is just ridiculous. You're never gonna have the product at the end that you want. And the guitar and music in general is largely based out of these 5-note structures. All right. And granted, there's a lot of cheeseball interpretations of how to utilize the pentatonics. primarily, I think that the major pentatonic, which is the same shapes and the same sounds and the same notes, just a different bass note behind it, all right, has largely gone overlooked by most guitar players who stem out of the rock and blues traditions, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to learn to kind of turn it on its side and look at it from, rather than being, to think of that as being G major pentatonic. Right, rather than E minor. Same notes. Right? So if you learn how to use both your ear and your eyes a little bit, you can start to figure out how that all works. All right. So that's kind of one column of thought that you need to have under control. Obviously, rhythm and pitch, being in tune and in time. Baby, what can I say? That's the thing. In particular, in tune, man. If you're out of time or you're out of tune, you're out of work. Fuck you. Get out. Just no. It's never gonna work out until you get those tempo and tuning together. You can try, but anybody who knows what's up, man, they're like, that's a that's a red flag, right? And I'm not suggesting that I was born with those things. I had to work my ass off to achieve any kind of passable. And there are folks that are really, really much more intense about it than I am even. All right. And I'm just suggesting, hey, really drill down, like take time with a metronome. Okay. Give us a tempo exercise. Well, that's what I do. Okay. So look, what I have done in the past for students is I'll set up like a little loop of going F, 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 F to a metronome. B flat, right? E flat, A flat, D flat. But I mean, this is a big exercise actually. G flat, and then usually I'll just stop at B. 1, 2, 3, 4. End loop, and then ask the student to go. All right, and they practice that, but that's a lot to do. Maybe just the first 2 chords, and then the second to the third chord, and the third to the fourth chord, right? Until you finally go through all 6 strangers, and they're no longer strangers; they're old buddies. That's what I would suggest. All right. So, and this is the kind of systematic and high and like a regimen that you can set up for yourself on the daily. That if you're going to practice, F major scale, then you can run through all 12 keys, major scales, then that's just 1 octave, right? Now you could do then, all right, learning how to do it in thirds and then descending, right? You can, how long is a piece of string, right? It's just endless depth to how much you want to, work yourself. You'll never get to the bottom. You'll never get to the top. You're always going to be striving. Hopefully you are a perpetual student. I know I am. The more I learn, the more I want to learn. So it's fantastic use of my time in terms of inner peace, and I feel very grounded when I get to practice and play guitar all day. If I'm struggling with other mundane shit, it gets me kind of cranky. Can't wait to visit tonight, especially in the office. Oh yeah, sure. So those would be like, those are real world tools that you can take to the bank. I mean, that stuff is really going to help you out, I think. And especially in terms of learning these off keys, these keyboard keys, the horn keys, as I call them, and stuff like that. The ones on the black keys of the piano. All right. F is kind of like, that's the guy who sits at the lunch table with the new kids at school that you've never met. And somehow he knows them. That's the bridge guy. That's the dude that opens up that social gateway. Okay. So F is your friend that takes you to meet B flat, who then introduces you to on and on and on down this little line until you finally get to B and you're like, oh, I know these guys. Right? And then you get to C and then you go back to F and all of a sudden you know this cat a little bit better. And every time you go through it, a little bit more. Now, here's something that's kind of interesting to just visualize. Let's take a look at the F. Right, that's 1, 3, 5 of the F. See how I'm doing that? 2, 1, 4 fingers, playing the first, third, and fifth degree of the F chord. The B flat is right below it, and the E flat is right below that. Right? Then we've got to come up to accommodate for the B string being a bastard that's tuned differently than everybody else. And then everything after that exists 1 fret north of there. So we would go 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, new shape. Put down our middle finger right there and play. And now we're out of the 14th fret rather than the 13th fret. Sorry. Then we come back to the 12th fret. I mean, not the 12th fret, the E string at the 14th fret, and watch. And then again. All right, and then the cycle repeats. F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, right? And then we would go down, we would go. So that would be D, G, C, F. Those are all 12 keys, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then back. All right. So if you can learn that, then you start to learn where all the chords are and where all their triads are, granted in this kind of the shape idea. So then you have to populate the rest of the neck with that knowledge, okay? But pretty soon you start to see these shapes as the gateway to how to think about triadic studies, okay? So you could do that over top of your little... So you could even make it a little picking exercise, right? You can learn alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? There's that fucking phone sound again. Or we can do directional picking. Right? All right, so that's how to gain some fretboard knowledge. The other way you can do things is also by learning octaves, like going G, 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 you know? Getting around like that, and then just going up 2 frets, and then going up 2 frets, and going up 2 frets, and up 2 frets, and up 2 frets. And pretty soon, you get back to G, then you go F sharp, and you go up and learn all the other keys, and then you're done. All right? Systems, baby. What do we got? Everything's going. Directional picking. It does make, I mean, I love directional picking, but it is what I would think of as it's a necessary skill to get to the next level, but it's not the first level. That's the way I would put it. I wouldn't start there. I would always start by teaching and learning every exercise as an opportunity to work on your alternate picking, mainly because alternate picking relies so heavily on the pulse of the downbeat and the upbeat. And if we don't really understand where we are within the structure of the 16 notes of the bar, it makes things kind of feel hokey, right? You really want things to feel locked in, like when you're, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. So strumming turns into that, which then turns into right. That's 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 1, right? So you want to practice playing things in time in 4 for a while. Then you can fuck around with that directional picking stuff. It does come in handy, especially for odd groups like 3s and 5s, right? So that's where the Eric Johnson stuff starts to make a lot of sense, right? Right, we're going. There we go. So that way, when you're doing. You can see how my hand isn't rotating to get those upstrokes. All right, and then you can expand that to include more. Right. All right. The other thing you're going to want to do is start working on even note groups, 2s, 4s, 6s. All right. And at no point in time should the pursuit of playing fast ever overshadow the need to convey melody. The only reason why you're doing any of that shit is so that you're prepared for a real idea that exists in your mind, right? You want to make musical statements, not just go blah, 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 and just make noises, right? It's very important that everything kind of lines up with the downbeats of the chords that you're playing into. So that's what's so great about going down the road feeling bad. It's a great, I'm going to bring it all home for you folks. So the idea is that you're thinking E, right? Into the A chord. Resolving back into the third of the E. Right, that's all my mind was thinking. Get to that E chord. What's the big note in the E chord that's different than the A chord? The G sharp. That's it. They're the same fucking notes. Right, look. Right? That's E major pentatonic. Right? And A major pentatonic just is one note difference. Hello. It's not that big a deal. Just don't start hitting G sharps over top of your A chord and you're home, right? So if you can do that. so on and so forth, ad nauseum. Okay, that's the best thing about psychedelic drugs and music is they just keep going and going and going and going and going, and gives you the opportunity to do endless reps. So my suggestion is you slow it down. Definitely don't try playing this at tempo as you learn it. That is a recipe for disaster. Okay, I'll leave you with one more parting tip. Okay, whatever you're learning to do, do it literally 10 times slower. 10 times slower than what you think you're going to want to play it at. All right. The idea is to never practice it or play it wrong. I know that sounds awful dogmatic, okay? And obviously it's impossible. It's an impossible ideal to live up to. You're going to make mistakes. But let me tell you, if you put yourself in the position, that's a lot of P's, to practice poorly, you are potentially, pitting yourself against, a big wipeout. My suggestion is that you slow things down to the point where you can't fail, okay? So that would mean literally going and not really going off of the E chord, hitting that D, right? Anybody can do that we're just going like that, right? Now think about the A chord. And then go back to the E chord. C sharp. And I just played that same lick in E. And then went down to fifth and played the B. Added that flat 3 for fun, just because I'm being a wise ass. Okay? So literally just going... not doing anything fancy. I'm staying right here at this 9th fret area, just milking this E note. Right? And that works over the E chord and the A chord. Back to the E. Back to the A. Now it only should make sense to you that over top of the E chord, we're here hitting its 3rd. Right? Kind of sounds like the opening to Jack Straw in the latter years. But that's all we're playing over top of that 1st chord. And then we're going to just change to that A note. Back at the A. C sharp minor. Okay, on and on and on it goes, folks. Crazy madness. All right, don't get too lost in the swampy nature of theory. Do not think about modes. Do not worry about that. Just follow the major chord with the major pentatonic and the flat 3 for a little while, and learn that sound of that dirty third coming in and out. That kind of bluegrassy, I don't know, kind of New Orleans sound to it with that 6. Major pentatonic flat 3. Telling you, plenty of time to learn how to make a guitar sound mean afterwards. Pretty easy, actually, compared to making it sound sweet. All right. Also, like I said, timing, and tuning. You got to make sure that when you hit vibrato that you're in tune with it. Practice going, like up into. Okay. Work on being in tune. Always play through your tuner. If you don't know that you're in tune, you're out of tune. All right. Like if you don't know who's the worst player at the poker table, it's you. All right. Same thing. If you don't know that you're in tune, then you're out of tune probably. All right. I got to tell you, it's hard to work on being in tune with a bent note. This is probably the most subtle and beautiful thing about our instrument. Okay. By the way, I'm feeling kind of frisky this morning. I'm not sure why. I think I've got a little extra salt in my personality this morning. So bear with me and forgive me. All right. So that's how I approach playing over these types of changes. All right. There's no one. Everybody. Hey, what scale is that? Well, it's a bunch of them. I'm an absolute saint. This is great. Well, tell that to my wife. She needs to know that. Okay. So a lot of that kind of stuff. On a 1 fret. In and out of. Gives it a much more vocal sound, okay? When it's a little, you're blurring the line. It's very, very rare for me to hit a note dead on without it being an intentional choice, right? See how I'm bending up into notes? It gives me the advantage of being able to control the pitch from underneath rather than just within it. There's very few sounds I like less than a sharp note, right? This sound. I'm in the right fret. Why doesn't it sound good? No. Ugh, okay. So be careful when you're playing that your hand is in the right position and not exerting any upward on the E string or downward pressure, right? You could be playing the right idea, right? But with tension in the string, it's gonna sound dreadful, right? I mean, there's sometimes where you can do that deliberately to create tension, right? Like Jeff Beck would do, right? So, right? That sounds cool, right? Well, that kind of thing. Anyway. All right. Pretty soon we're going to start talking about arpeggios and all sorts of stuff over top of here, and that's not a bad starting point, you know. You'll note that I often will include the sixth degree in my arpeggios, okay? So 1, 3, 5, 6. Okay, it's basically forming a pentatonic scale arpeggio hybrid idea, and I love this idea, and definitely you should consider that. But considering that I haven't had breakfast yet, and I've had way too much coffee, I need to feed myself and get ready for a day of semi-productivity around the house. All right, so my friends, compatriots, and fellow travelers, I love you and I care about you, and I want you to have a good day and a good life on this instrument. It's brought me a ton of joy and a measure of financial, excitement from time to time. I've actually been compensated for some of this knowledge from time to time. And if you're interested in studying with me privately, that's obviously an option. I do that. He said do. You can. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for you like the beard. Tell it to my wife. She does not like the beard. She's like, you look like you're 1,000 years old. So anyway, man. What I was saying is, if you're into, here's my big pitch. I saved it for minute 72 of today's podcast. Give me business if you want to. That's fine. Obviously, if you guys want a tip jar, of course, you guys could always send me a tip. At my PayPal is my email. So if you want to reach me for lessons, it would be the same way of you PayPaling me money. I'm 1 billion years old, so I don't have Zelly or any of these other vehicles that most of you youngsters are utilizing these days. I need a super thanks option. What's that? I have no idea what that is. Is that some sort of way of YouTube financial compensation? I think I've heard about people saying that. Hey, how's it going, Uber Jam Sam? I'm sorry, you just got tip jar. Okay, well, wait. You're 63? Okay, well, you know what? You could be 63 and be a lot more hip than me. I'm like a fucking total Luddite, all right? So pardon me for not knowing all this stuff. I do have kids that were supposed to keep me young and appraised of all this information, but I neglected that. It's a tip thing. All right, cool. Well, here's how I would, if I was interested in showing financial gratitude, which is obviously there's no pressure in any of this. This is a completely, I'm not doing it for that, but that obviously money rules. Money's awesome. I like having money. So if you want to tip me, then go to my email, use my email at PayPal to do that. That would be Jack _ the little line underneath things, Jack _ JACK _ DEVINE at hotmail.com. That's the only email address I've ever had, and I got it in 2000 or something like that. Then when I got my first cell phone and television. I hadn't had a television for 10 years. This is it. This is it, man. Hey, Freddie, how's it going, man? It's nice to see some familiar names, and if you're a subscriber to the channel, which is I assume you are, because who else and how else would you get notified about me being on the airwaves talking into an iPad? Anyway, if you like what you're hearing, obviously, or seeing or learning, I obviously want to hear it, or read it. That's awesome. And if you want to show your gratitude by tossing me a couple of bucks to my PayPal, that's dope too. And if you're interested in more, I guess bespoke tutelage, like, hey, I've got a gig coming up and I need to, really step my game up a little bit and want to understand better how to tackle this song, like specific things. I definitely do that, kind of like spot training. And if folks want to actually just have a musical mentor, that's probably my favorite thing, is to take young minds and pervert them. No, is to take undeveloped but frustrated musical people and bring them to that next level of development, and then kind of kick them out of the nest. All right, that's enough. Now you go do it. And that usually takes anywhere between 6 to 18 months of listening to me yammer on about the same few basic tenets that I have managed to support myself with. So happy to help for free, happy to be compensated, happy to just read nice things about me or ignore mean things about me, with which that's way too easy to write too. There's a lot of dark side. So anyway, folks, I really do appreciate you tuning in this morning, and one big holiday smooch send out into the universe. If you guys are around, I'll probably be doing another one of these. Tuesdays are usually the day that I have free around the house. I teach less on Tuesdays, often not at all. And often I'm doing householdy stuff. Like today I'm tiling a shower. Yay. Or rather, I'm waiting for somebody to come and tile my shower. But hey, thanks for anything music theory that I'm studying. Couldn't go better with your lessons because they're the best on. Oh, that's cool. I like being told that I'm the best, even though it isn't really competitive. There are a lot of really great sources of information on the internet. There's also a lot of kind of annoying but successful YouTube folks. I don't have a purple light behind me, but I'm gonna buy one. I'm tired of being hungry. I'm gonna buy a purple light and put a bunch of studio gear behind me so I look like I know what I'm talking about, even though I know what I'm talking about. You know what? I'm just gonna show you their studio equipment. Therefore, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Whoa. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna go back to playing guitar and trying to stay positive and wait for this schmuck to tell me he's not gonna come and tile my shower today, because that's exactly what's going to happen. It's way too late. He would have been here by now if he was coming. So welcome to New York. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. It's too knowledgeable. Can you be too knowledgeable? All right. Seriously, learn a little bit about how this thing works, all right? Where to pick it, how to set up the knobs and everything like that. I don't know if you're using a 4-knob 2-humbucker guitar like me to play Grateful Dead music. Most people do not. All right? And you can hear the Oh, I see. I see. You're being facetious like me. Yes. Sarcasm. That is definitely a big one around here. All right, folks, I'm out.